Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucks. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucks Nation? It's time to party, baby. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. We're coming. We're coming. Here we go. All right. Now we're cooking. Woo! Right. All right, we're here. We're here. I have one of my things that I was connected. Everybody hear me? Everybody good? I have one of my things that was connected to the microphone. Actually, I was using it for something else. I'm transporting all of my videos and all my pictures from my computer to a little bit of a thumb drive because I got so many things from the last 10 years. So I've had to be able to move them over. So I was using that, and then I didn't realize it until about 30 seconds before we went live. But we are live here on the Recher podcast. We all good? Everybody hear me? Thumbs up? Good? All right, cool. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. A big shout out to Dolan and Janet and Benny and Dolan again and DT. Hope you all are well. Finally getting over this cough, which is good. On the backside of that, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I'm everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Man, plenty to get into today. Of course, our good pal Ian Beckles is going to join us at 12:30 today, as he does every Monday. So we will discuss the Buccaneers preseason opener as well as some other stories around the National Football League. I want to hear what he has to say about some of the comments that were made by Dylan Gabriel in Cleveland and also Abdul Carter there in New York. Because when you think about it, you know, these guys that are in the National Football League, especially these young guys, these rookies, you know, you got to be careful what you say. You got to be careful what you say because sometimes it's going to come back and it's going to bite you in the ass. And if you're trying to have a long career in the National Football League, you better hope that the talking on the field is a lot louder than the talking that you do off the field. And if you're one of those people that like to run your mouth, I mean, you better be able to perform on the field because you're going to be the butt of all jokes if you don't step up. I look at Lady Evil, and shout out to Lady Evil. I know you went up there to check out the game, and unfortunately, I heard the travel wasn't too good for you. So I hope you got back safe and happy. Lots of fun up there in Pittsburgh, hostile environment for sure. And I'm not one holding back with Bucks fan enthusiasm. Entertainment district around Exeter was A+. We can learn so much from that in Tampa Bay, no doubt. And of course, I always want to hear from you guys. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them there at the bottom of the screen. Dave Terry, man, you actually look competitive even though they lost. I was very happy with their performance. We'll get into that at around 1:30. I was at the Rowdies game on Saturday night, an incredibly historic night there at Al Lang. I'll give you my 2 cents on that and why I think your guys, David Terry, I think Liverpool have a much better chance of winning the Premier League than Arsenal. We'll get into that at 1:30 today. Ian Beckles joins us at 12:30. A little bit after that, at 1 o'clock, we'll talk about so many different things that have happened this weekend. But at 1 o'clock, USF Football has a new home. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on that. 1:10, Scotty Scheffler is starting to reach a level that we haven't seen since Tiger Woods. What do I mean? I'll tell you at 1:10. 1:20, the worst UFC title fight in recent history, UFC 319, Saturday night. Not good. And listen, I am not one of those people that is a casual. You guys know me. I'm a big UFC fan. I've been watching it for a very, very long time. And you have some of these people say, oh, like you're not a real fan if you thought that was boring. No, I don't think that's true at all. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Domination is good when it comes to, a guy coming in and really planting his flag in the ground that he's the new champion. Like we've seen it before with, who was it? It was Henan Barrow when he lost the 135 title to TJ Dillashaw. Completely different match here between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus du Plessis. And I'm going to tell you why a little bit later on in the program. Then 130, Manchester United, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, and the Tampa Bay Rowdies all soccer at 1:30. The matchup, and of course, I want to hear from you guys. Very interactive here on the program, and I want to be very interactive on Mondays following a Buccaneer game. We're always going to open up the video stream to you. Hop aboard, whether you're on your phone, whether you're on your laptop. There is the link, StreamYard.com/JUGEQ8MBUM. If you want to join in on the conversation, just click on the link right in the chat, and you can join us via the phone or via your laptop. Get in on the conversation. Your biggest takeaways from the Buccaneer win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 17-14 the other night there in Pittsburgh. Shout out to Nathan Elliott, a big-time Tampa Bay sports fan as well. And listen, is the end result the most important thing? No, of course. To me, and we'll start out with, some of the good, some of the bad, because I think there was enough of both. But, Teddy Bridgewater getting the start here, and we heard it from Jason Light on the pregame show on 98 Rock. We also heard it from Todd Bowles after the game. This was in no way a demotion for Kyle Trask. You just want to see Teddy Bridgewater playing with some of these veterans, playing with some of these guys that are quote-unquote the first string, because if he does get in there, that's the group he's going to be playing with. So that's why Teddy got some of the snaps and Kyle didn't. Kyle got in the game. It did not look good at all. And that's what we've seen sometimes at camp. People have been asking, what about Kyle Trask and how has he looked in camp? At times he's looked okay, but when he's not looked good, it's because there's been the backups in there and the offensive line, and some of that has really struggled against some of the Bucs defenders. And that's kind of what we saw Saturday night. When Kyle has been at his worst in training camp, it looked like how it looked Saturday night. Not good. So I'm not putting too much stock into that because it's just a preseason game. And Kyle, what he did in week 1 is, I think, probably more of an indication of what he would look like with the starters. But, yeah, not a great showing for him there against Pittsburgh. Shout out to Christopher Cole. Jeremy Lowe wants to say, can we please stop the Justin Simmons to Buccaneers talk? He's not coming to be a backup. Yeah, you got to figure if he's a guy that has played in – and isn't it funny? Last year, and I told you this if you were listening to me on WDAE with our guy Zach Blobner, you brought in Justin Simmons, you brought in Matthew Judon, and you brought in Kirk Cousins, and everybody was like, oh, wow, that's going to make the Falcons the team to beat in the NFC South, and we know that it did not. Of course, Matthew Judon and Kirk Cousins and Justin Simmons no longer – well, I guess Kirk Cousins is still there. Name, body, but not in spirit, probably. I mean, he's, they're looking, he's got to be looking elsewhere. What other job is opening up for me to be able to get the heck out of here? And who's going to pay that money, of course, is a good question. But Justin Simmons, I thought, was redundant in Atlanta. You already had Jesse Bates, one of the best safeties in all of football. Why would you bring in a guy who didn't really make that much of a difference? For him, coming in and playing with the Buccaneers, it's not a long-term injury when it comes to Christian Izien, who's dealing with the oblique. It's not a long-term injury when it comes to Antoine Winfield Jr. with the hamstring injury. And listen, the Buccaneers have some space, but they're not going to use it on a safety. Listen, it'd be one thing if Antoine Winfield Jr. was hurt and he was out for the year and you need a guy that's going to come in and hopefully start for you 17 games. That's not happening here. You need to get into a position where you're helping out the depth. And that would usually be a younger guy or a guy that you're, promoting from within. Now, one of the biggest unfortunate things that we heard, and that was coming out of practice last week, was that J.J. Roberts is out for the year. And this was a kid that I thought had a really good chance of making the team. Now, what does this mean for a guy like Shiloh Sanders? Even early on, when I've been talking about the safety position with a lot of other people, J.J. Roberts was the clear-cut guy in front of Shiloh Sanders. Not a personal thing, not, we don't like Shiloh because of his dad. No, it was just a guy that can play, and he was just a little bit farther along, and, a guy that had, knew where he was going to be. He made more plays. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to see him. And you're going to get J.J. Roberts, and you're going to get David Walker back next year. And, again, that's something that Jason Light said on the pregame show with Gene Deckerhoff on 98 Rock. And And that's one way to look at it for sure. But you looked at that safety spot, and you got Antoine Winfield Jr., you got Ty Key, Izzy, and again, it's just an oblique thing. He's not going to be out for a long time. And then you have some of these other guys on the back line, and even a guy that had an interception the day, Kendall Vildor. He's not technically a safety, but once you start getting further down the depth chart when you're talking about corners and safeties, I think you get into a position where you want those guys to be multiple. You want those guys to be able to play a little bit of both. You want those guys to be able to play special teams. So I wouldn't look at it as necessarily a like for like all the time. Like, got to be a corner, got to be a safety. Because once you get down there, you're usually coming in, during nickel, dime packages anyway. So you're one of multiple secondary players that are out there. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Let's stop the Justin Simmons discourse. That is not going to happen. Trash too inconsistent. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I thought Merriweather has played pretty good, Chris, and you're a good point. He actually practiced really good the Monday after the first preseason game too. So I love that as well. Nathan Elliott, Shiloh is like a pot of chili. He needs time to sit, stew, and let the flavors of the NFL to soak in. It could be great, but it'll take some time. And of course, we want to make sure that we're showing some love to our good pal, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, 813-244-0956. Scan the promo code or the QR code right there. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast, and they'll give you a discount. Just a great, great group of people over there, Russ and the crew. They always do a fantastic job. You got residential needs, commercial needs. Again, 813-244-0956. One of the biggest positives that we were able to take from Saturday, and Russ chimes in here with, what's up, Jay? That Emeka catch was fire. Fire the cannons. You got that right, buddy. Emeka Egbuka just continues to impress. Only one catch for 5 yards, but a beautiful job in the back of the end zone there. And he's just a kid that he's so wise beyond his years. Every single time you watch him out there, you see a guy that doesn't look like a rookie in the National Football League. And the website has been upgraded. Oh, we'll check that out at around 1 o'clock today, buddy. Can't wait to check that out and show the crew here on the Jay Recher podcast. But Emeka Egbuka, he makes you feel really good about what this wide receiving core looks like. And, he's not going to play a ton, in the preseason. You would think, get him in, get him out. We'll see what happens in preseason game number 3 against the Buffalo Bills. And, man, Buffalo got smoked in their second preseason game. And Coach McDermott was not too thrilled about that. And I know at the end of the day, it's not always about the results, but when you get spanked like they did, and you get beat as bad as they did, and you look up at the scoreboard and you're like, wait a second. I know this is just a preseason, but 38-0, not good. And the Bills were actually called out by Coach Sean McDermott after their loss, so we'll see about that. Again, Emeka Egbuka, fantastic. One of the negatives, Greg brings it up here. Any concern about the running game? Not necessarily. I wouldn't say an overall concern. Definitely didn't leave a lot to be desired and a lot to be happy about coming out of that game against Pittsburgh, especially with, them playing their backups. But something to keep an eye on going forward, because we know how successful we know how pivotal that running game was to their success last year. And for all the things that we talk about when it comes to Liam Cohen, when it comes to the transition to Josh Grizzard, people love the familiarity with Josh Grizzard. They like that he was around last year and that there's not going to be too much of a change when it comes to the passing game. But the running game, right? The running game is something to certainly be cognizant of, something to keep an eye on, especially if Rachaad White can't go week 1. What does that mean for a guy like Bucky Irving? We know that he's going to be the starter going forward. And one of the positives I really like is him being able to make that catch in the end zone. And for all the talk about what Rachaad can do in the passing game, one thing that we can't forget is that, Bucky Irving can catch the ball to the backfield too. He looks good, and he doesn't show any signs of slowing down. He's a very, versatile back that can run and also be able to catch the football. So I'm not worried about the passing game when it comes to the running back position, but, not running the football. And David Terry says here, offensive line looked terrible, kind of scary. Yeah, it wasn't fantastic. And sometimes you need those. Sometimes you got to work out the kinks a little bit. Sometimes you get some different looks from one team to the next. So I wouldn't freak out about it, because the proof is going to be in the pudding come the regular season. But I know, guys, I was watching that game too. Like, come on, man. The penalties and not being able to run the football, and then what happened with Kyle Trask. Not happy with that whatsoever. Graham Barton did not look good on Saturday. I got spun around a few times, and they were not a lot of good blocking up the middle. Yeah, I mean, for him, I don't worry too much. It is year 2. We know how much responsibility that young man has on his shoulders. But yeah, again, not great. And it wasn't like he was going up against Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, and all their plus defenders there too. So I'm sure they're looking at the tape today, and they'll be practicing tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. And surely that's probably the top of the priority list when it comes to getting things figured out before week 1 against the Falcons. Hammer says, keep Bucky on the bench till game 1, please. Yes, I wouldn't play much, if any, of the starters in the week 3 matchup with Buffalo. Chris Cole, Trey Palmer, Cam Johnson are probably going to be cut because they haven't played at all. Yeah, I know they were high on Cam Johnson. They've been high on him the last couple of years, but and you look at what one of the bad things, you look at a couple of drops from a guy like Rakim Jarrett. I think we kind of have an idea of who that wide receiver room, who's going to be in the wide receiver room. Now, scary with the whole Jalen McMillan thing. It looked like he was walking under his own power. He had a neck brace on. He was checked for a concussion. We'll find out more when Todd Bowles speaks tomorrow. But, I love the catch from J-Mac. I didn't love the throw from Teddy Bridgewater because he just kind of like floated it up there. And when he floated up there, the longer that ball's in the air, man, the more you have an opportunity of bad things happening, whether it's on the defensive side of picking the ball off or, your player has to go up into the air and it's tough to be able to defend himself. So yeah, even though there was a, kind of a steadiness when Teddy Bridgewater came into the game, that throw, I was just holding my breath like, and then unfortunately J-Mac came down. He had to come out of the game. Hopefully it's not long-term, but you look at the wide receiver room, guys. We know it's Evans, right? Godwin's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season. Hopefully Jalen McMillan will be. Abuka will be. Tez Johnson, even though I didn't love what I saw from – listen, he had his moments, but you can't put the football on the ground. That's the paramount thing. You got to make sure that's first and foremost before you contribute in any form or fashion offensively. You're making this roster because you're the return guy. You better hold on to that football and secure that damn thing. No jokes, nothing off the field. Take care of business on the field, because if you don't, that's really going to really mess this team up, no doubt about it. But he's going to make this roster, and I think Sterling Shepard is too. Whether he makes the practice squad or the 53, he's going to be on this team because and you see how reliable he can be, and he's always going to be in the right spot. He's got good hands. He's a veteran in this league. Hell, he's only in the NFL because he wants to play with Baker. He would be home by now. He's got money in the bank. It's all good. But he can still bring it. And he's your 4th, 5th, 6th receiver. I don't think that's bad at all because he's got good chemistry with, regardless of who the quarterback is. We've seen Shepard have good chemistry with Kyle Trask, and we know he's tight with Baker. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And then you got Miller and you got Garrett Green. So what does that mean for Trey Palmer and Cam Johnson? It means that you're probably on the outside looking in. Nathan Elliott, Trey, Mr. Unreliable Palmer. Just check out. And listen, I mean, you thought last year, and this is why I really respect a guy like Jalen McMillan. We knew going into last year was a battle for that number 3 spot in the wide receiver room. And Palmer did not really rise to the level that we thought that he could have. And you were hoping that competition was going to bring that out of him. And unfortunately it didn't. J-Mac usurped him, and now he's at the wide receiver 3 spot. Jalen McMillan now on the other side. He's kind of on the other side of that competition against Emeka Egbuka, but we've seen Jalen really step up and make a couple of nice grabs in the first 2 games. So it makes that room when everybody's healthy, really, really scary. J-Lo says, can't wait to see what Morrison can do when he heals up. Yeah, I hope he heals up. I hope he gets in there because going into the season, we're already talking about his hip, and now we're talking about this next injury. And, as my good buddy Ian Beckles says, you don't get healthier as you get older. I don't even want to talk about Morrison injuries anymore. It's kind of bothering me. There she is. Karen Clemente. Happy Monday, Jay. Disappointed in Trask's performance on Saturday. I don't disagree with that. While she contributes to the conversation, I want you guys hit that like button, smash that like button, whether you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, or Twitter/X. Kill that like button, please, and share this on your social media platforms. Every little bit helps. Jacob Parrish is a beast, David. I agree with you. He's going to get the start at nickel. He can play on the outside, can do a little bit of everything, but you saw it with, and it's not just him, but you see guys with the nose of the football now, and that is certainly an onus. It's a priority. It's something that Todd Bowles, when his defenses are really top-notch, it's what they do. They take the football away, and you're starting to see that more and more. You see it in camp, you see it in practice, and you're seeing it in the games. 3 interceptions on Saturday night. You see Zion McCollum. It's not just your secondary guys. Your second string and third string guys. You need your top guys to get them too. Zion McCollum comes away with the pick. Kendall Vildor with the pick. How about Antonio Greer? Big fan of him ever since he was over at USF. And this is a guy that just keeps getting better and better and better. He's going to make this team. He's a guy that's going to help you out in special teams. He's got a knack with coming up with the big plays. I'm just so happy for the kid. It really is. He was such a great player for the Bulls and just a really good down-to-earth dude, and he's just been working his tail off, getting better and better. You got to like that linebacker group, man. Bullock comes away with the interception too the other day, and it was a sack, excuse me. John Bullock came away with a sack too. So you have Bullock. I mean, you're looking at this linebacker core, and some people thought that it was going to be a weakness, but Todd Bowles said from the beginning, I think it's deep. I think it's a position of strength. A lot of people are like, really? Now you're starting to see, yeah, maybe Todd is right. Nathan Elliott, Jamel Dean's a great guy, fun guy, but he lacks a killer instinct. He reminds me of Joe McCoy, but as a cornerback, nice guy, neither one of them are dogs. I mean, I think for Jamel, this is a guy that he does his best work in press coverage. He's a guy that can tackle in space, but when he's out there and there's a long pass going and you see that it's 35 in coverage, you hold your breath. And he unfortunately makes mistakes at the worst times. I don't think you want to get rid of Jamel Dean right now. You need as many numbers as you can. I think this is one of those situations where kind of like a Devin White and KJ Britt, where eventually, Jamel Dean, unfortunately, will probably miss a game or two. Then Benjamin Morrison comes in, and then Jamel Dean, when he gets back in the lineup, he loses his starting spot, but he's a body, right? But yeah, it's just there's too many times, and I know like some of the Jamel Dean apologists out there will look at him and be like, "Well, it was because of Tyke Smith." Listen, if you have to constantly come up with excuses of why a guy's not getting a job done, like the common denominator is that guy. And too many times we've seen big plays over the last couple of years, and it was because of Jamel Dean, right? He was involved in some capacity, whether he's a major component why or a minor component why. It's like you're not saying the same thing about Zion McCollum. So what is it? Jamel Dean has got to pick it up, and he's a guy that, a couple of years ago he re-signed here when a lot of people thought he was going to go elsewhere. People were questioning the relationship between Todd Bowles, and I told you guys from the jump that offseason that I saw Todd Bowles and Jamel Dean walking off the field arm in arm. That guy knows that Todd Bowles is going to do whatever it takes to kind of put him in a position to be successful. Unfortunately for Jamel, if this is as high as it gets, I mean, what does that mean for his career in the National Football League? Jeremy Lowe also says Josh Williams is flashy, and I think will make the roster depending on White's injury. He could. This is a guy that the Buccaneers continuously talk about in the backfield. Owen Wright's another guy. I mean, looking at that team, and you need as many people as you can, right? Throw as many numbers as you can. As good as Owen Wright looked in the first preseason game, he had 4 carries for 3 yards in Pittsburgh against the Steelers, right? Sean Tucker, only 6 yards on 4 carries. The running back is not as important as the offensive line. Those guys have to go out there, and they have to step their game up. And speaking of step their game up, one guy that did was Chris Braswell. Chris Braswell is another guy, 2nd-round pick. All right, Chris, we need you. We need you this year. And especially when you lose a guy like David Walker before the season, you start looking at a guy like Chris Braswell. You get drafted in the 2nd round for a reason. All right, time to take a step forward. And that's what you saw from him. And I think that is a big, big positive for him. 3 tackles in the game, being able to get even the rushes that didn't get to the passer. He just looked different. He looked like he was making a concerted effort to be able to get there. Some news here on the Buccaneers, and this is from our pal Greg Allman. Dealing with injuries at safety, Bucs are signing rookie safety Will Brooks from Tennessee, who was a tryout player at rookie minicamp and also briefly with the Saints. He had 4 interceptions in 2024. So there you go. For all those talks of, all right, they're going to bring in Justin Simmons. No, not necessarily. They're not bringing in Justin Simmons. They're going to bring in a guy like that. So, you're going to have him, you're going to get him into the rotation, get him with the group, and, and then go from there. And hopefully some of these injuries aren't as serious as what we initially thought. Because when you start talking about injuries early on in the season, not good. Not something that you want to start having a conversation with, even if you like your depth, right? And we looked at the wide receiver position as, hey, we really like the depth there, but how long Jalen McMillan is going to be out is something to be cognizant of. We know Chris Godwin won't be ready for the regular season. So then you start moving guys up the depth chart. Let's say J-Mac's not ready to go week 1. And we know Chris isn't. Now you're looking at Evans and Ibuka as wide receiver 1 and 2, and your third receiver is Sterling Shepard. That's why Sterling Shepard, no doubt about it, is making this team. Again, I don't know if it's on the 53 because then he's, the contract guaranteed for the entire season, or if he's a practice squad, like that's what we saw last year. I think ideally that's what they would want, similar to what we saw last season. But you need healthy bodies, man. You need as many people as humanly possible to be ready for week 1 against the Falcons. This team, I like the fact that they're going to be playing Atlanta in week 1. You get to Michael Penix early. And also because this was one of those things, when you look back at last season, of course it didn't end the way you wanted it to end, losing in that playoff game against Washington, against Jaden Daniels. But listen, they went into Detroit and beat the Lions too. So it wasn't like it was just I wouldn't say it was a fluke. I mean, the kid did his thing. But one of those kind of black clouds and one of those negative things from last season is that even though you won the division, you lost both of the games to the Atlanta Falcons. And, we saw this a couple years too when the Bucs had trouble beating the Saints. Sometimes there's just that bugaboo within the division that you can't beat. And I think to have that challenge in week 1 is a good way to have this team make sure that they're not just easing into the season. They're going into the season, all right, it's almost, I don't want to say like a playoff game, but this is, and I'll never say a must win. I hate when people say a must win game. Listen, it's only a must win game if when you lose, the season's over or you're knocked out of playoff contention. That's it. If you say it's a must win game because the team's not playing well, I don't think so. Not at all. But this is a game that the Buccaneers, they're going to want to have bad. Not that they don't want the other ones, but this one. You want to start the season out on a high note. You get an opportunity right in your face to play the Atlanta Falcons. I like that. I think that's going to help that team and help propel them forward. And we'll see, who is going to be the guy that kind of steps up. Because what usually happens is in the regular season, you start seeing different people step up that maybe you didn't see them in the preseason, or maybe those guys that had a decent preseason take a big step forward. Defensively, I think that's a huge part too. When you look at this Buccaneers team, biggest improvement from last year to this year, get off the freaking field on third down, get to the passer. And if you can do that, you take some of that heat, some of that stress, some of that pressure off of the offense, and maybe that'll help Josh Gazard kind of ease into a little bit, but they're not going to be able to ease into much playing a division opponent right off the rip. And listen, you know how hard it is to be able to win the division when you lose 2 games to one team like they did? Like, it's very rare. That is a very rare thing to happen. And especially for Atlanta, for a team that, like, they won their fair share of games last year. It wasn't like they lost, to a team that was 4-13 and 2 of it, and you just kind of you scratch it up as just kind of like one of those weird things that happen in sports. No, I mean, you look at Atlanta and what happened last year in 2024, and you say, okay, they were 8-9, but 2 of those wins came against the Buccaneers. Like, that doesn't happen very often. So the Buccaneers want to avoid that at all costs, take care of business in week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons, and really put a stamp on this division early. And then we'll see where they can go from there. A lot of people are talking about, oh, I want this seed, I want that seed. Bro, you got to take this one game at a time. It's a 17-game season. Don't try to do too much. I know the Buccaneers aren't going to focus on that, but as a fan base, just relax. Relax. It's a long season. And as we've seen so far in the preseason, injuries can dictate a lot. And that's why, again, Buccaneers bringing in a young safety, the rookie Will Brooks out of Tennessee. Bring him in, see if he can contribute to the squad. If he gets his number called, hopefully they won't need him. All right, let's bring him in. He joins us every Monday at 12:30. It's the man, the myth, the legend, Ian Beckles. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am fantastic. How'd it go Friday night for the Chiefs? Wait. Storm.
Watch your mouth, man.
Storm.
You know, it went better than I thought it was gonna go. How about that? It wasn't
Nice.
pretty, though. I ain't gonna lie.
No, not pretty.
Oh no. It wasn't pretty, don't. And we played Wharton. It's a preseason game, so it doesn't count. We played Wharton last year. They beat us almost the same way, and we ended up winning 7 games, and they won 1. So
wow.
it almost happened the same way. I think if we play Wharton at the end of the year, we can beat them.
Mm-hmm.
But it was to the point where you can't fake football, and I changed centers the day before the game because my one center couldn't get the ball back there. And we're losing 14-0 at halftime, and it was because of 2 bad snap touchdowns on defense. So,
wow.
You know, it's one of those things that it wasn't pretty. I didn't expect it to be pretty, but it wasn't anything that we couldn't take care of, and I think we're going to be all right.
All right, that's good. Of course, the Buccaneers, Saturday night. I know you put so much stock in the preseason games. I'm kidding. But you go up and you win a game in Pittsburgh. You know, you put yourself in a position. One thing I did like was that it seemed like Todd Bowles had an idea with the clock down the stretch. So that guy that they brought in to help him with the clock, I mean, maybe that's something you could take away from the preseason. Chase McLaughlin kicks the field goal. The Buccaneers win. It is what it is. Before we talk Bucs, I want to ask you this because the Bucs play the Bills coming up this weekend. The Bills got beat 38-0 by Chicago the other night.
Okay.
Does that matter? Does that kind of thing matter? Because I know you and I talk about it's not always about the results in the preseason, but when you lose like that and like literally nothing goes right, what can you take from that versus just a game where it's kind of like, yeah, it's a 17-14, it's a 21-17. Like, are those the games? And I know you say this a lot, like, can't really take much from the preseason, but when everything goes wrong, can you take something from that?
Well, the coaches will tell you before the preseason game, they really don't care who wins the game. Mm-hmm. I didn't tell you they're not going to put foots in asses if you lose 38-0 because coaches they're not wound up like that. They don't like to be made look bad. When you lose 38-0, it looks like your team's not prepared, so it's going to fall on them. You can lose 38-0 or win 20-17, and the coaches may have the same sentiments. It all depends on how the starters looked, okay? Right. Like if the starters, the first 2 drives, drove the ball down the field offensively, and there was some misfortunate thing happened, they fumbled, they'll still be all right, okay? Mm-hmm. If you win 17-14, the starters went 3 and out, 4 straight, drives, they're going to be pissed. So, the result doesn't matter. That being said, if you lose 38-0, their coach is going to be a little more puckered up, and the coaches like to be puckered up. And they like to challenge their players, and they're going to go in the next game and go, the starters, it's go town, guys. If the starters play, I don't know if they're going to play. If they do, they're going to be evaluated, and they're going to be maybe have a little bit more pressure. But that's life, man. That pressure in football, they're synonymous.
Teddy Bridgewater gets the start over Kyle Trask. Jason Light says on the pregame show, and also Todd Bowles after the game says this isn't a demotion for Kyle Trask. But what do you make of, just regardless of how they played, what do you make of Teddy Bridgewater getting the nod over Kyle Trask in the second preseason game? Big deal? No big deal?
Well, coaches and GMs are going to say things to make the organization feel comfortable. I want to ask you, Jay, if you have to bet your house on a game, do you want Teddy Bridgewater or Kyle Trask to start?
Teddy, easy.
Okay. What do you think they want?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so to say that has nothing to do with Kyle Trask is a bold-faced lie.
Right.
Okay, it just is. It probably has a lot. It has a lot to do with Baker Mayfield as well. You know what I mean? But if Kyle Trask was, I'm trying to think of a good name. Who's a kid that won the Super Bowl for the Eagles and
Nick Foles.
Okay, if it was that, there's no way they'd have brought in Teddy Bridgewater. They wouldn't need to. Okay, They don't have confidence. The kid has never taken a legitimate snap. It's not a dog on him. This is what he is. He's a quarterback.
So you're saying the Bucs don't have confidence in Kyle Trask?
No.
Yeah.
Of course not. Okay. If they had confidence in Kyle Trask,
Teddy
Mayfield wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
It's fun. Jay, it's 5 years, and he's never taken a legitimate snap. If they had confidence in him, they'd have tried it. They eventually, like Patrick Mahomes and guys like that, you're not going to keep them on the bench for 5 years. They'd have showed you something in practice to say, you going to put me on the goddamn field. So I know there's Gator fans here that still think he's the guy. And look, he might be a good backup quarterback. But when Kyle Trask in the game, nobody's expecting to win the game, unfortunately.
Beck, any concerns with the offensive line in week 2? I mean, they didn't play, the world beaters on the defensive line for Pittsburgh. None of those guys really played. And listen, didn't run the footballs. It just didn't look cohesive. Barton didn't look good. He turned around a couple of times. Yep. Is this one of those things where you look at the offensive line like, hey, what are they talking about today as they're watching tape, that offensive line?
They're probably catching it. Let's see, if you have 41 yards rushing and you're telling everybody you're a rushing football team, that's embarrassing. Okay, right. Rushing football teams rush the ball against anybody. That being said, I played against the Steelers numerous times, and I'll be damned if we ever ran the football against the Steelers. The Steelers were a bitch to run the football against. To have a backup left tackle against the Steelers in any situation is tough. Barton's made look bad because you could ask Tony Mayberry, playing against the Steelers with that 2-gap nose guard who's usually a beast is just a hard place to be. And the fortunate part is nobody else plays like that. Like the Steelers play like this odd style of defense that really very few teams play. And ironically, I think the Bills might be one of the other teams that do it. So whatever they did wrong against this, 3-4 defense, they better figure it out real quick.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, looking at what happened in the game, and I really like, and I know it's 2 preseason games, but I just seem like the guys have more of a nose for the football. The guys that they brought in, whether it's Kendall Vildor as a guy from Detroit, or drafting Benjamin Morrison or Jacob Parrish or even Zion McCollum, right? And Antonio Gray, like how important is that going to be this year when it comes to Todd Bowles and taking the football away? I think it's just I don't want to say a miracle, but I think it's pretty crazy that we haven't even seen like a full blown Todd Bowles defense in a couple of years, and this team has won the division every year. How good can this team be if we get a fraction of what we saw like in 2020 when Todd Bowles was able to do his thing and that team won the Super Bowl?
Jay, just imagine that Todd Bowles had a good rush with 4 linemen, okay? Right. Because when has he ever had it? He's never really had it, okay? So if Todd Bowles had a great rush with 4 linemen, man, he could do so many things behind it, because the Bucs were top 10 in sacks last year, but as we know as Buc fans, it was a schematic thing. Because when Vita Vea, the 360-pound guy, is your best rusher, it's good for him, but it's really not great for the defense. We got to have 2 other guys that people fear, okay? So if we get to a point where we can rush the passer and everybody's petrified of our 4 guys, now we go back to the Bucs of old. Because the Bucs of old, you're terrified of those 4 guys, but then here comes Rondé Barber. Here comes Derek Brooks. There's all different things. And Todd Bowles be that much better. Without a great rush, Todd Bowles figures out ways to manufacture sacks. I want to see him to where he doesn't have to blitz as much, because when you blitz, you get your DBs in trouble. And, your boy Dean sometimes is on the wrong end of some big plays. And I don't want to see Jamel Dean, on too many islands this year, because it doesn't turn out well sometimes.
Yeah, he didn't look good in that game too. And I know some people are like, well, Tyke put him in a bad spot. And you and I are in full agreement with this, where it's, if you have to constantly make excuses for a player, well, it was this, well, it was that. Well, what's the common denominator? The common denominator is Jamel Dean. But now we're having people like, oh, you should get rid of him. I don't know if they can get rid of him, right? Like, Beck, tell people why, even if he's not a starter, even if Morrison outplays him and eventually like Dean's a backup, like he's still a body that you're going to need, because it's a long freaking season.
All you got to know how valuable the player is, put him on the market and see what happens. Mm-hmm. If they put Jamel Dean on the market, there'll be a dozen teams that want him at least, because you can't have too many cover guys. You can't have too many rushers. You can't. Oh, well, we don't need him. We don't need that many. We don't need any more pass rushers. Has never been said. We don't need any more corner, cover guys. Has never been said, especially these days when you got 5 wide out there often. Boy, if you have 3 good corners and 2 crappy corners, they're going to find out where the crappy corners are. Right. So Jamel Dean, you want to get rid of him? Jamel Dean is a legitimate NFL cornerback, regardless what you say. Is he on the wrong end of a lot of plays? Yes, 100%. I think his hips are stiff, and I never heard the coaches say it, but he's physical, but he doesn't open up his hips as well as a lot of other defensive backs. But if you're asking me, is he a legitimate NFL cornerback? Yes, he definitely is.
Now, I want to ask you about something that we heard over the weekend, and we heard Dylan Gabriel make a comment, and a lot of people thought it was about Shedeur Sanders because he was saying, well, there's entertainers and then there's competitors, and a lot of people took that as a shot with Shedeur Sanders, but come to find out that he wasn't really talking about Shedeur Sanders. He was more talking about the talking heads. He was talking more about the people that, like a Stephen A. Smith, the people that are paid to, give their opinion on the games and entertain on TV. What do you make of that entire thing? Do you believe that he wasn't talking about Shedeur Sanders? And what do you have to say about a rookie quarterback, on the sideline during a game, talking about things like that rather than just kind of, focusing on the game and the task at hand?
Well, Shedeur Sanders is just a magnet for everything. Like, with his dad, obviously, I've never heard so much said about a 5th rounder who wasn't even decorated. You think about it for a second. It was 5th round, wasn't he? He went in the 5th round or something like that?
Yeah.
And, he won a few games at Colorado, 7 games or something. I mean, if his dad's name was James, would we be talking about him?
Right.
So it's one of those things where even if he did mean it, who cares? It's 2 rookies. Like, right. We really shouldn't be listening to rookies anyways. If he meant it, it's not going to change my perception of him. I mean, if he meant it, then I'll tell you what, that quarterback room's not as good as anybody says it is. If you're talking about somebody right next to you, there's only 4 guys in the room, and you're talking about one guy being an entertainer and I'm a quarterback. I mean, if he really didn't mean that, Shedeur's going to look at him funny. So I'd like to believe that he was talking about somebody else, but I can't put words. Like, I don't know what his words mean. But Shedeur Sanders, my God, I don't watch ESPN and anything. I catch excerpts of it. It seems like 40% of stuff is Shedeur Sanders, and he may just be a backup. It's sometimes it gets crazy for me.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you see things that happen on ESPN, and if it's the Cowboys or the LeBron, or it's the same things over and over and over again, and people are like, all right, we get it. And, Dylan Gabriel, and like, this is a guy who's a 3rd-round pick, right? So, I mean, you're trying to beat out Kenny Pickett, and you're trying to beat out, a guy like Joe Flacco. I just, you haven't proven anything in the National Football League yet either. No. So for him to be sitting there and talking smack about the people that get paid to talk about him, like, why would you bring undue criticism? Like, what's your belief on that as a rookie overall? Like, put your head down, or like we saw in the situation with Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter gets like laid out on a chip and on his ass, and then he goes to social media. He's like, that's the only good play the Jets are going to have all season. Like, what do you make of rookies going out there and talking shit, whether it's on the sideline or on social media?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Jay. Just think about the scenario, okay? If this was any other team and other people, it's just Shedeur Sanders. Mm-hmm. If this was even a Buccaneer rookie quarterback talking about some other 5th rounder, nobody would give a crap. Like, when you talk about ESPN, and listen, we've been on radio, we know what makes that meter move. We understand that. Like, when Tim Tebow was playing, you bring up Tim Tebow, boy, everything's lit up. Shedeur Sanders is that guy. He's that polarizing where people either love him or hate him. That's the best athlete. The best athlete, the best marketable athletes are the ones that you have to have an opinion on. And Shedeur Sanders certainly is that guy. But I think he gets 75 times more press than he should get. Like, even during the combine, I even said, my God, are we talking about Shedeur Sanders a lot? up, down, sideways. He was 5 for 5, and then he got drafted in the 5th round. Then what do we hear? Shador Sanders went 11 for 15 in practice. We're not talking about what Kyle Trask goes in practice ever. So he's definitely a different athlete, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I wonder how this whole thing is gonna to turn out in Cleveland, because there's certain situations, there's certain teams, there's certain positions where, I mean, they always seem to make the wrong move, right? They always seem to make the wrong move, and we tend to forget, how much money they're paying Deshaun Watson. Like, we talk about all the other quarterbacks that they have with Kenny Pickett, with Joe Flacco, with Shador and Dylan Gabriel, and they're still paying a shit ton of money to Deshaun Watson. Like, dude, they're paying 5 quarterbacks, Beck. Like, that's got to be the biggest black hole when it comes to a position in the history of sports.
Well, you have a Flacco on the team that if you play today and you said once again, Ian, you have to bet your house I'll take Joe Flacco. I think he's right today.
Yeah,
he'd give you your best chance of winning.
Oh, he's going to start. He's definitely going to start.
No, here's the other end of the spectrum. Why start him? Because you ain't going nowhere. Okay? You ain't going nowhere. Joe Flacco's not taking the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs. He's not gonna, because he hasn't taken a team to the playoffs in a while. Okay? So I don't see it. If that's the case, put one of them young kids in 11, get their heads split open and learn how to play football. Let them do it. That's, to me, having those young kids on the bench watching a veteran is great, but you still have to get in there, and the bullets got to come by you before you start getting better. So I would put one of them young kids and start developing them right now.
How do you find that balance, though, Beck? Because I know some people would say, like, ideally, you want them to be able to learn, right? Take the Aaron Rodgers, take the Patrick Mahomes, take the Tom Brady and the Eli Manning, where those guys were able to sit a little bit, watch, and then when they got their chance, they were ready. But then, of course, there's the other side of the coin where you have a guy like Peyton Manning who, you throw him in there right away. Or Joe Burrow, throw him in there right away. So what do you think is the balance of having those young players, especially at the quarterback position, of the guys that are starting week 1 in their rookie season, or guys that get to sit back and watch a little bit?
Well, the difference between Joe Flacco and the Browns and the aforementioned quarterbacks that you brought up, those quarterbacks were way better than Joe Flacco at this point of their career. You see what I'm saying? Like, Brett Favre at that point of his career, even Alex Smith. When he was still in the peak of his career, Joe Flacco was at the back end. He's been at the back end for about 5 years, okay?
Yeah.
So I think it's a different situation. I think those other teams were also good teams too.
Yeah.
Like, the Browns aren't really a good team. So if they say Joe Flacco starts 13 games this year and the Browns win 6 games, what'd you do? You didn't do nothing. But if Shador or the Gabriel kid, they start and you win 6 games, and then you're like, okay, now we have somewhere to build. But you win 6 games and you flip and you go to another quarterback, you got to start from scratch. So to me, I'd rather start earlier than later.
Buccaneers, as far as who they play on Saturday night, would you want them to play their starter Saturday night or no?
Would I want them to? Yes. But I don't count because my mentality is so archaic and antiquated that I believe, like,
why?
Okay,
now, why would you play them? Because I think some people, especially when you look at what just happened with Jalen McMillan taking that big injury, and you're looking at Baker, Mike, and Levante ain't playing anyway. So, right? I mean, I guess compared to like what you would do, and also in the situation of maybe what they should do.
Sure. Here's the difference, okay? We just had a preseason game with Chambo, right? I even told the players to go, you dropped your nuts today. Because they found themselves in places they'd never been before. Some of my linemen have never played before.
Wow.
So now they're in their 4th quarter and they feel like they're dying. And the coach was like, take so-and-so out, take so-and-so out. He's tired. I go, he's fine. He's fine. He won't die. You need that, okay?
Yeah.
Because this offensive line, I haven't seen them together yet. It's 190 degrees.
Yeah.
In that first game, when the first home game, they're going to die. They're going to die. Because there's no way to simulate adrenaline. And you're going to go from 5 plays offensively to 65 plays offensively. And they're going to bonk. That's just because we used to play a substantial amount of preseason. And then when the season started, that first game, second game, third game, man, you are not in football shape. And I couldn't imagine what football shape these guys are in because they didn't do anything in the preseason.
Right.
But then again, I'm an old head.
So how do you balance that out with the injuries, Beck? Like when you see a guy go down in preseason and you're like, why are they even playing these?
Well, I don't know if there's a right answer to that, Jay, because I believe when somebody goes in and gets hurt in preseason, everybody says, well, why is he in there? Now, when they don't play in preseason and they go in the first game and they get hurt, what do they say? You didn't get enough playing time in the preseason. So there's no equation. I just think these players are going into the regular season and they're not tenderized, okay? They haven't taken enough licks. That's why you're seeing a lot of no contact knees and all kind of stuff like that. Their bodies aren't used to all this violence. And once again, you can't simulate violence, brother, not game violence.
It's got to be the hardest sport to do that too, right? Like, because like for hockey you can play and obviously the intensity is not ratcheted up like an NHL playoff game, but because of how every football play starts with that car crash with the at the line of scrimmage, it's impossible to like tone it down unless you're playing flag. Like in football you can't half-ass it, right? Like that's I look at a situation like that, it's just I don't know if they'll ever get to a point where that they are, all right, let's go 40%. You can't do that in football. Like there'll be even more injuries then.
Correct. And you can simulate most sports, most parts of most sports. Like you could go to your backyard and play basketball and be the same. Okay. Baseball, pitching and catch, you could do it. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Now watch this. Even in football, a wide receiver and a DB could go on the field, and really it's not much different other than the pads. It's not that much different. So, other than the adrenaline, it's pretty much the same. Once you get in the trenches, it's completely different. Like I don't care how many sleds you pushed. I don't care how many weights you lifted. Once that you're in the trenches and you get a 300-pound man leaning on you, pushing on you, or I'm leaning on a 320-pound man, it's just not something that you can do and be ready for. It's just, and a lot of my kids saw it for the first time on Friday, and they're going to be better for it. Like, I want to see more of Heck, and I want to see more of, Barton out there when the bullets are flying, because it didn't look that great the other day, to be honest with you.
What, is Richard Batman Wood helping you guys out too?
No, not that I know of. No.
Ian, is that Nathan Elliott? Wait, Ian, is that Chamberlain with Richard Wood? Am I reading that correct? No, he's not.
No, it's Chad Wood. Chad Wood is our head coach, is our trusty head
Any
coach.
Relation?
No, definitely not. No,
definitely not. How many coaches you got on the coaching staff?
We got a few this year. Last year we had two, and this year we have probably about five guys out there. We got a defensive coordinator this year that's doing a great job. So we actually have people in the right positions. Nice. And we got some people out there helping. I even have an assistant offensive line coach. So we big time now, Dal, for real.
Wow. Yeah. You guys have any assistant water boy positions available?
I think you got your hands full, bro. You're good.
Yeah, I got 3 teams I'm coaching now. So, oh my God, it's gonna be a lot, man. It's gonna be a lot. When's the opener?
It's this Friday. Friday, we're playing Brandon.
Home or away?
It's funny. I didn't even look.
What are away? Do you take the bus with the team to the away games?
No. I drive and I get there before them. Yeah. I walk around the field. I watch the other team warm up a little bit. And the bus comes up, and when that game's over, dog, I dap people up and I'm outie.
Yeah, you're out of there.
I'm going home, dog. At 11 o'clock at night on Friday, I'm trying to be home, dog.
Way past your bedtime. What is that like when you go to an opposing football field for you at this stage? Like when you're there and you're going in, it's like that. Because I always tell this to people, like regardless of what level you're at, whether you're coaching or playing, there's always something different when you go on the road. And I remember this when I was coaching at Freedom. Like when we went to King High School, and there's hundreds of people and they're cheering against you, they're cussing you, and Coach Macaluso and everybody going crazy. Like there's just nothing like going away, going like, man, we better dial it in here, man, because we are in enemy territory.
I miss a lot about competing because I don't compete anymore, and I used to be a competitive son of a bitch. But the part that I really miss is sizing up. You know what I mean? Like you walk into the gym in basketball or baseball or football, and you're looking at the guys across from you, and they're looking at you. Nobody knows what's about to happen. Right. They think they're about to bust you up. You think you're about to bust them up. That's the part I miss, because that's the chess part. Because any minute we putting our hands down, and whatever you think and whatever I think doesn't matter anymore. Now the reality sets in. So, a lot of our kids ain't there yet. They don't have the competitive nature, but we're trying our damnedest to get out of them.
How was customer appreciation Saturday at the cafe?
We got a nice night, man. We were hanging out back here. We brought the 3-footer out for those that like the 420 friendly
the dabble.
Stuff.
Wow.
And we got Celestial. Yes, we did.
Nice. But there was a lot of people. Good turnout.
Yeah, it was a great turnout. It was good. Saw some old heads we haven't seen in a while. Our people from Cava Social came, Bodie and Sarah, and it was a hootenanny.
It's a hootenanny. I like
man.
it. 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Go check out the Dignitary Cafe. Of course, the Beckles and Recher podcast every Wednesday. We'll be recording it there. My friend, appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you on Wednesday, buddy.
One love, kid.
Yes, sir. One and only Ian Beckles. Go check him out, Ian_Beckles on all social media platforms. I was going to make it over there Saturday, man. Just I couldn't do it. Because everything got pushed back. My schedule got crazy. Because of the Rowdies game. Rowdies game supposed to start at 9, got pushed back due to weather, so I wasn't able to get over there. But, yeah, go check them out, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Go check them out. Tell them that you heard it right here on the J Recher podcast. Shout out to Richie P. Batman Wood, assistant coach of Chamberlain a few years ago. Not now. Richard Batman Wood, Buccaneer great. And also, I know had a lot to do with the upbringing of our guy Denard Span. Richard Batman Wood, I know, means a lot to him. All right, let's before we keep this show going, our good buddy The Honest Hammer said that there's some new stuff with the website. All right, let's check it out here. And of course, any commercial residential needs, go check out theHonestHammer.com. Let me see it. Boom, and there you go. Big time contributor, main partner here on the J Recher podcast, 813-244-0956. Okay, some new pictures up there. Custom homes, bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels, commercial construction, new construction, interior and structural renovations. Yeah, man, switching it up a little bit. Look at this. Wow. Some new pictures. Look at this, man. Custom home renovations, interior, kitchen, bathroom renovations. Listen, give them a shout. 813-244-0956. Honest Hammer, General Contractor Company, CGC 153116. Go to thehonesthammer@gmail.com. Again, you have any questions, give Russ a call. He's a Tampa Bay sports fan just like you. Tell him that you heard it right here on the J Recher podcast. Get you a discount. 813-244-0956. Commercial, residential. Listen, there's a lot of people out there that are wondering, hey, what do I have to do if I'm trying to remodel my kitchen, remodel my bathroom? What can I do to make sure that I'm trusting the people? You hear so many of these horror stories, so many of the, oh my gosh, I gave this guy this money and then he never came back. I feel terrible when I hear that. You want to quell those type of fears, then give my guy a shout. 813-244-0956. Honest Hammer Custom Builders. Again, tell them that you heard it right here on the J Recher podcast and get you a discount because, of course, they are the main sponsor here on the program and a big-time Tampa Bay sports fan. You want to be able to trust. You want to invest with people that you know aren't going to screw you over and that are like-minded. A business here in the Tampa area that is growing and they want to be a part of our growth right here on the podcast. We're just going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Questions, comments, concerns about the Bucs and everything, feel free to put them there at the bottom of the screen. And guys, follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We have over 1,700 subscribers. It's pretty wild to think that we went from about 38 subscribers in November, and now we're close to 2,000. We got to keep those numbers getting higher and higher, and I know once football season starts, those numbers are going to skyrocket. We got to continue to promote the content and share the content. So if you see anything that you like on social media, share that on yours, guys, because that is what's going to help us grow. Got some irons in the fire as far as going on this week, trying to get some USF guests as well. But yeah, and we'll see what happens. Maybe get some Rays guests. I mean, tough loss for the Rays yesterday. They needed a sweep over the San Francisco Giants because the numbers just look bleaker and bleaker. And unfortunately, they lose yesterday. They had no run support for Ryan Pepio, 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts from Junior Caminero. You don't see that very often. But you got to be able to make sure that you contribute in big time games, and they just haven't been able to do so. There goes my guy Louis from the Frozen Pirate Pod. I was on with him Thursday night. Guys, make sure you're checking out his podcast and supporting him, supporting all of our local groups and local podcasts, doing whatever we can do to continue to put out that message, and we're covering our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Game 3 of the preseason Saturday night at Raymond James Stadium against the Buffalo Bills. We'll see who is going to be playing in that game. Probably not a lot of the starters, but Buccaneers off today, USF off today. So we'll find out more tomorrow from Coach Todd Bowles. I'm actually going to be at USF practice tomorrow. Buccaneers practice on Wednesday and Thursday. So that's where I will be. And, of course, I got to get out to one of these custom home builds for our guys over at Honest Hammer. But let's talk about what we heard today, and that was that the USF football team has a new home, a new radio home, the new radio partnership with Beasley Media Group. And I'll read it for you. The USF Athletics and Beasley Media Group have proud to announce an exciting new radio partnership launching with the 2025-2026 USF Athletics season as part of a multi-year agreement secured by Bulls Athletic Properties. Iconic Bay Area station Q105 FM will become the flagship home of USF Football, delivering powerful coverage across the region. Partnership also marks a historic milestone with the launching of the first ever Spanish language broadcast of Bulls football on Playa 106.9 FM in the 2026 season, with the possibility of selected games airing in the 2025 season. In addition, USF Athletics audio content will be featured on 10:10 a.m. Alumni Radio, and Bulls Athletics will make appearances and receive promotional support from other Bay Area Beasley stations, including 92.5 Maxima, Wild 94.1, 98.7 The Shark, and 99.5 QYK. So let's get down to the nitty gritty here. I look at this decision by USF, and you know that they wanted a FM signal, and that's the big thing now. And we're going to see that as we get closer and closer, because as much as we talk about 95.3, that's not the strongest signal when it comes to FM, right? And you look at 98 Rock and why the Bucks love that, why a organization like the Lightning wanted to go to 102.5 The Bone, because it's an incredible signal there. And now this is just another thing with USF and looking at, could they have been on WDAE and DAE with Nick Wise at the helm and Tommy Chuck? They decided to go the direction of the Florida Gators, and you can understand why they would want to do that. Does it suck that the only team now on WDAE, this only sports station in town, are the Rays? Yes. But this is just something that over the years that I've learned through being on the radio side, where there's a prioritization when it comes to where the teams want to be. They want an FM signal. They want to be able to reach as many listeners as humanly possible. But they also want to feel like they're number one. And if you're the radio station, you look at the Rays and you figure how many broadcasts that they have, 162. It makes sense for you, right? When it comes to your cume, when it comes to how many people listen to your station. But if you're the Bucks and the Rays and USF, you don't want to play second fiddle, right? You want to make sure that you're not going to different broadcast signals when there is a conflict. But yeah, I mean, there's a part of me, and I always wanted to strengthen those relationships when I was there at WDAE. But of course, I'm gone for almost a year now. But I think the more local on our radio stations, the better. I think it's a little strange when these sports aren't on traditional sports stations. But that's kind of the nature of the beast here in Tampa Bay when we just have one sports station and the stronger signal is the AM side on 620. So you're going to have, football on a rock station. You're going to have the Lightning on, Real Raw Radio and 102.5. And now you're having, with Q105 being the home of the USF, like it's just kind of the changing times that we're in here on the radio side. People were asking me personally if I was going to get back involved with USF football. I was open to it, but nothing ever came my way. They're going to stick with the same crew. It's going to be Jim Lauk and Sam Barrington on the call with Joey Johnston on the sideline. You got Jim Lighthole and Of course, Derek Sharp doing the pre and post game stuff. I did work with those guys in the past, but that was something that was in the contract with iHeart and USF at the time. I was open to possibly doing something with them. People were asking me, but it just didn't come to fruition. So, you look at what has happened and you look at the opportunities or lack thereof opportunities. It's a tough business to stay in, man. That's why it's so important that we do what we do here on the podcast, because you would think people are like, all right, well, you're done with DAE. You have more opportunity to do Lightning. You have more opportunity to do USF. And those opportunities are becoming more and more infrequent. So, it is what it is. That's why I got to kind of fend for myself here. Will I be doing stuff with the Lightning? Probably not, I would say. I mean, if I haven't heard anything by now, it's kind of the same thing with USF. You're not just going to sit around and wait for a phone call, but that's why, investing in myself and investing into the podcast and coaching baseball more, like I got to do what's right for me. But it's nothing personal. It's just, they haven't decided to go in a different direction. It's just, think about how much money that they have to be able to put towards a broadcast like that, and they're not bringing anybody else in. So I get it. This is still all love, and I'm not going to close the door on ever doing anything with USF or possibly the Lightning in the future. It is what it is, man. I'm just going to continue to do my thing, but that's why when I talk about, the super chats, right? Investing in those super chats, $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, and being a sponsor like our friend at Honest Hammer, like the only way that I can continue to do this is if I get paid doing it. I'm not trying to, rake anybody over the coals or, bleed anybody dry, but, you got to make sure that your time is worth something, right? I will be going to USF games. I will be going to Lightning games. I still have credentials, both of those. Which is really cool. And I even missed the date. And this is why I love USF, right? I missed the date for USF. It was a couple of weeks ago. I was either sick or I wasn't traveling. And they reached out to me and were like, hey, man, I know you didn't sign this up, but you got to sign it. We're like, all right, cool. I appreciate you. So I will be at a lot of USF games, including next Thursday night against Boise State. I cannot wait for that. And listen, Richie, man, I can't thank you enough, brother. Richie P, always with the super chat. Richie, you are the best, man. Thank you so much. Support local. Richie always does. And if you want to continue this podcast going, this is what I need. You're the man, brother. Thank you so much. Am I going to do anything with the basketball team? Probably not, brother. But I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be at as many games as I can. I'm excited for Coach Hodgson in year one. When it comes to the women's side, they're crushing it overseas. And Jose Fernandez, after a lull a couple seasons ago, how they were able to bounce back and get into the NCAA tournament. There's just nobody like Jose Fernandez. So I can't wait to be able to see what's going on there. Craig, as much as you talk about Signal, what is factor streaming apps, the Audacity, and tune-in factor into the decisions? Not as much as you think, man. Not as much as you think. Because what happens is, and I'm glad you asked this, Craig, people want the Signal. Like, that's their big thing, right? On the side of, all right, we want a Signal. We want to get out to as many people as possible. We want like casual people if they're not, oh yeah, here's the hockey game. I understand that aspect of it, but listen, if you're listening to like, let's say 1025 The Bone, right? Obviously such a strong signal, right? But how many people are like stumbling onto the hockey game if you're listening to it on the radio? You're not. Like if you're listening to Lightning on the radio, you're going to where the game is. Like you're going to where it is, regardless if it was on 970 WFLA, 620 WDAE, or 1025 The Bone. Right? You're not getting casuals to go listen to hockey on the radio. It's just the way it is. But it always comes down to, and you were saying streaming apps, Craig. A couple of years ago, and even working at iHeart, we thought that would be a big thing, especially for USF because there's so many different teams, right? And Derek does such a great job. And they have Bulls Unlimited and Bulls Unlimited 2 on the iHeart station, on the iHeart channel, under the iHeart umbrella. Well, now with TuneIn and so many different apps, right? They don't necessarily need iHeart. Again, you're not casually going to USF and listening to the USF Bulls radio network. Like you're going there. It's a destination thing. Like if you want to listen to these games, you're going to go there. You're not just going to stumble onto it. And now that there's just more opportunities to be able to listen on the apps, it makes a lot more sense for them to not be kind of stricken to like, we have to do the iHeart thing. But it all goes down to when it comes to like the radio station play, it's like what they can do to sell it, right? The property's there and having that, being able to be like, have tickets for, to the games to be able to give away to clients and to the radio stations, and how are you going to be able to sell your content as, pre and post game shows like with Tom Krasnick. Go listen to the pre and post game show with Tom Krasnick on WDA. Listen to 98 Rock with Ronnie Night Train Lean and Pat Donovan, and just listen to how they sell those things. But especially on the DAE side, listen to how they sell race, like pregame show, the inside pitch with Ronnie Night Train Lane. It all comes down to money, man. It all comes down to money. At the end of the day, it's not like, hey, we're doing it for, because we love local. It all comes down to the almighty dollar. So as much as like there's a big part of me that would want everybody and all kumbaya, all under WDAE, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. But yeah, it is what it is. Best of luck to everybody over at USF and everybody over there at Q105. And yeah, man. Hopefully we'll see what happens in the future. That is for sure. All right. So USF finds a new home. Browns are naming Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback. What a surprise. No, not at all. Not a surprise whatsoever. Okay. So Scotty Scheffler, insane. And we're starting to get to a level when, if you're Scotty Scheffler, like for Scotty Scheffler in the golf world, it's almost reaching levels to Tiger Woods. Is he as good as Tiger Woods? No. Is he ever going to be able to bring the amount of attention and the amount of money to the product? No. I'm not talking about that. But there's a couple of things when you look at him and you go, all right, that's very Tiger-esque. And the first thing is that if he's anywhere within a sniff of contention, he's got to be the guy that's the favorite. He's got to be the guy that you're looking at going, all right, well, he may not be winning now, but he's got a really good shot to win. And you look at it going into Sunday of the BMW. Robert McIntyre was in first place, and he started the weekend off so strong with a 62 on Thursday, a 64 in round 2. So at that time, he's 5 shots ahead of Scotty Scheffler. Right? Scotty shoots a 67 on Saturday in round 3. McIntyre shoots a 68. So Scotty's able to make up 1 shot there. So Scotty Scheffler going into Sunday in the 4th and final round is 4 shots behind Robert McIntyre. Does that matter at all? Not really. Not really, because of how good Scotty is and what he's been able to do. And for him to be coming to $3.6 million in earnings, like this guy is just, it's incredible. It is truly incredible what he's able to do. And you look at the shot that he had, an 82-foot chip on the 17th, and it was Tiger-esque. It's hard not to think about the guy who made the most profound impact on the golf course in the last 30 years when you see a guy like Scotty win for now the 5th time in 2025. And you go back to, I think it was February or March, where Phil Mickelson goes on Twitter and says, is Scotty Scheffler going to win any tournaments before the Ryder Cup? Well, he's won 5. I just, when you watch him do his thing, you love that. You love the ability that he has to be able to go out there and to perform at a high level. And he's starting, here's the other thing that I try to compare to the whole Tiger Woods thing. And again, it's not to the same level of Tiger. But there was a point this weekend where I saw what was going on with the BMW, and I was keeping an eye on it casually. And I saw that Scheffler was on the scoreboard. He was in the top 6 or 7. And I go, I got to keep an eye on this now. You got to keep an eye on this tournament because Scotty could come back. And that's the great thing that not many people talk about when it comes to Tiger Woods is if his name was anywhere near the top of the leaderboard, people were tuning in. You saw it towards the back end of his career with Tiger, where if he was playing in a tournament, the eyeballs were there. And even in the Masters, where he'd have a great Thursday and Friday, and then he would struggle down the stretch. But people will still tune in early on, even though he wasn't near the top of the leaderboard because he was Tiger. Now, will Scotty ever have that impact? Probably not. But just for the fact that he is a guy that has just been so dominant the last couple of years. And, his personality is really shown through. And whether it's him getting arrested, whether it's him being in the new Happy Gilmore movie, or just some of the comments that he's made about what he does as far as like what gives him satisfaction, what gives him true happiness. And that it's not just based solely on what he does on the golf course. It's deeper than golf. It's deeper than sports. And that's what we want. You're looking for ways to be able to connect to these professional athletes, because at the end of the day, those guys, when it comes to their skill level, are way above anything that you and I will ever do. It's just the way it goes. But there's a relatability when it comes to Scotty, right? He looks like a guy that you would play with on the weekend. He's not, carved out of granite, right? He has a little bit of a funky swing. But this is a guy that routinely, when he's playing in a PGA Tour event, you have to tune in, you have to watch, because he has a really, really good chance of doing something that is going to make you shake your head in amazement. Like, damn, I can't believe it. I can't believe he did that again. And I love it. I think it's great for golf, and every sport is like that. And I've always been one of those people that think dynasties are good for sports, because when you eventually take them down, then you can start another one. Then you can really build stars that way. It's one thing to have parity and this team wins and this team wins. Yeah. But there's just something about a guy that wins a lot, or a team that wins a lot. I mean, you think about them forever, right? I mean, you think about the Islanders and the Oilers in the 80s, and then you get to the 90s and you see look at what Dallas was able to do, right? They're still riding the coattails on that 35 years later. Look at what the Michael Jordan-led Bulls were able to do with 2 3-peats in the 90s. Like, Michael Jordan became the most influential professional athlete in the history of sports in the 90s. That doesn't happen if he doesn't win not 1 3-peat, but 2 3-peats, right? You look at what the Yankees were able to do in the late 90s, and the stories of Derek Jeter and the iconic brand that the New York Yankees became, right, during the boom of the internet and just the globalization of sports as a whole. The Patriots with Tom Brady, what Golden State was able to do with Steph Curry. Like, you're changing the game, right? So, I mean, that's what Scotty Scheffler. We're in the middle of the Scotty Scheffler era right now. And, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people out there were hoping that it was going to be like a Justin Thomas, or it was going to be a Jordan Spieth or Ricky Fowler or some of these other guys, but it's not. As much as you could do a lot of stuff off the course, on the course, at the end of the day, you got to win. And he stayed with the PGA. So he's on this side of history. I was watching actually some live golf, and it's just weird. It's weird. Jon Rahm looks miserable. Every single time I tune into live golf, Jon Rahm looks like he could not wish to be any further than where he is. There's no way he's enjoying that. Not a chance. And then you have like this big leaderboard, and, it's very colorful. And then there's the team play, but it's just, and again, I'm a PGA guy, and I look at what happens with, what happens with the Valspar, right? Like, I'm always trying to promote the PGA. I'm always trying to make sure that everything's better for them and things like that. But, man, it just sucks watching that and seeing like Dustin Johnson and Patrick Reed and some of these names. Like, I wish they were playing with Scotty in the BMW, because as much as it's great to see what Scotty's been able to do, like, at the end of the day, I wish that he was able to do that against some of these other guys. I just think it would mean a little bit more, because Tiger was legit beating the guys, like everybody. He was beating the rest of the top guys in the game. Every single one of them. Nobody else was playing anywhere else. Just the way it goes. All right. Again, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. I know we're having looks like some issues on the Facebook side. That ain't because of me, folks. It ain't because of me. That is a Facebook thing. So Twitter/X on YouTube as well. Hammer says, Scotty makes it hard to watch almost. He makes me feel like an idiot when I'm playing golf. Every shot Scotty hits is poetic. But that Emeka catch, yeah, it's like that. But, I mean, Scotty Scheffler, to me, just the more you see of that, the better. I want to see as many big-time Scotty Scheffler putts and chip-ins. I'm just excited for why stop? Why stop, man? Keep on playing. Keep on winning. All right. Follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I'm everywhere, guys. Please get on out there and help me out and contribute via the super chat like we've seen already today, like our guy Richie P. Every little bit helps. Supporting local is the way we do it. And I am big time local. All things Tampa Bay through and through, but we do talk a little bit of everything on the program, including UFC 319. And wow, back-to-back spinning back elbow wins for Carlos Paredes and Leroy Murphy. I mean, insane. I told you there was a lot of possibilities of wins. Joseph Morales won via the triangle choke, which was a surprise to me. Alibi lost that one. So Joseph wins the flyweight Ultimate Fighter. There was also a big knockout when it came to Alexander Hernandez beating Chase Hooper. Gerald Mearshart went down. Big Michelle beat him. Victory by punches on the TKO. Eric Nolan lost via rear naked choke. And then you get to the main card. Kai Askara. A lot of people are wondering, all right, where's he at when it comes to the flyweight? He loses via guillotine choke from Tim Elliott, a vet who was 21-13-1 going into the fight. He ends up winning. Good stuff there. Michael Venom Page, I thought a pretty solid, dominant victory over Jared Cannonier. I mentioned the 2 spinning back elbows. And then we get to the main event. Dricus du Plessis defends his middleweight championship against Khamzat Chimaev. All right. So I went into this thinking to myself, so many times we look at a young upstart, a guy that's going up in weight, and we totally disregard the champion. We totally disregard the guy that's been there, the bigger guy, and especially a guy like Dricus, who I almost put him in the category of like a Stipe Miocic, where they're just a well-rounded fighter overall. It's not just like he's a heavy kickboxer, he's a heavy jiu-jitsu guy, he's a big-time wrestler, he's an MMA guy. And for far too long, I always would go against a guy like Dricus du Plessis. And I said, all right, this time I'm going to go with Dricus. He's a bigger guy. Khamzat is going up in weight. Dricus is the champ. Look at some of the guys that he's beaten. Respect to the champ. He's the champ until somebody beats him. And then the motherfucking fight happened. Jesus. I couldn't have been more wrong. I'm sorry to my guy, Vince. I told him to put some cheddar on DDP. Wrong. And I'm not calling him DDP. All right, that's the last time. There's only one DDP, and that is Diamond Dallas Page. Bang! And it is not Dricus du Plessis. He's not DDP. Sorry. In my opinion, that was the worst UFC title fight that we've seen in a very long time. And I know I just saw something online earlier today about Robert Whittaker, former UFC middleweight champion. He says, if you think that fight was boring, then you're just a casual. You don't understand the intricacies of the fight game and blah, 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 blah. I don't watch the game to get educated. I don't watch these fights to sit here and act like I'm a guy that can go in there and do it. I watch the UFC, just like I watch all the sports, to be entertained. That was not entertaining. Did he dominate him? 1,000%. No doubt about it. You can't take anything away from what Khamzat Chimaev did in that fight. He deserved to win. He whooped his ass. But if you think that was an entertaining fight, you're blind. Not a chance. And I'm going to tell you why. It wasn't just that he was going to dominate him. It was just listen to the broadcast. And at times I don't like listening to the broadcast because I feel like I'm watching something and then Daniel Cormier, Joe Rogan, and John Anik are watching something completely different. Whether it's because they know the guy, they like the guy. It's weird how one-sided sometimes the commentary is when I'm watching a UFC fight. And I know I'm not alone because other people have said that to me. But the reason why this fight sucked was a couple of reasons. One is because the lack of a takedown defense from Dricus du Plessis. Dude, you are the UFC middleweight champion. You knew that Khamzat Chimaev was going to try to take this fight to the ground. You knew that. And even some of the most basic takedown fundamentals, he was unable to do. You're talking about a guy that held a championship going into the fight And he had no answers for Khamzat. Zero. This is not something where you got outstruck. And sometimes you're just a better striker than a guy, right? But you're still going to be able to throw. You're still going to be able to get some shots in. You're still going to be able to land some significant strikes. He had zero answer for Khamzat Chimaev. Nothing. And here's the thing. It's one thing to get taken down. Okay? That's not your bag. I get it. But, bro, you weren't even sprawling. There was one point in round 4 where his leg wasn't even extended. Bro, when you've seen, if you watch any type of MMA and a guy comes to at you, right? You're sprawling. You're burying the guy's head. You're taking both of your legs and you're spreading them out behind you as far as humanly possible so he can't grab him. And this guy is sitting there with his legs bent. It's one thing to get taken down because a guy's better at taking you down. But just the basic fundamentals that a rube like myself, a ham and egger, who just considers himself a fan, was like, bro, you have to at least sprawl. That's the first thing that you get taught when you're trying to defend a takedown. And you're a champion, and you're not even doing it? That's embarrassing. Embarrassing. And it's not just me saying that. Daniel Cormier is saying that. He's not just getting taken down. He lacks the basic, rudimentary, fundamental, just basics when it comes to stopping a takedown. Here's the other thing. This dude gets taken down, right? First round, second round, third round, and this dude is laughing. This dude is laughing as he's going back to the stool. Like it's a joke. Like, dude, you're getting embarrassed on pay-per-view. You're getting embarrassed all around the world, and you think this shit is funny? That shit isn't funny. You're getting worked. You're getting embarrassed. At the end of the day, bro, you're way tougher than me. Okay, this is just my opinion. Okay? Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I'm not saying this because I'm like, I would do better. No. But if you're sitting there and you're not doing the basic fundamentals when it comes to takedown defense, and then you're laughing, like, bro, we're watching this, right, for entertainment. We're watching this because you're supposed to be one of the best. You made a fool of yourself out there. That was horrible. The other thing, Khamzat's taking him down the first couple of rounds, getting him in this crucifix over and over and over again. And this is on Khamzat. Bro, the weakest little baby punches that you're ever going to see. No elbows, which he ended up doing. He didn't elbow this guy in the face until the 4th round or the 5th round. And again, this is something that Daniel Cormier and Joe Rogan and John Anik are literally talking to the broadcast. They won't stop the fight. They won't stop the fight because he's hitting him with these little pitter-patter punches. It'd be different if he elbowed him. I just felt like it was two guys that were tough as nails. Don't get me wrong. But it felt like the UFC took a step back on Saturday night when it came to that. It took a step back because I didn't look at those guys like, wow, man, I'm so thoroughly impressed with them. And these are two elite level fighters going at it. I didn't get that sense at all. Ilia Topuria against Charles Oliveira, right? Two high-level guys. You're like, dude, this is nuts. The first round. Listen, that's the thing. Just because a fight gets stopped in the first round or a fighter gets stopped in the first round versus a guy going all 5 doesn't mean that it was a better or a worse fight. Just because a fight goes all 5 rounds doesn't mean that was a better fight than a first-round knockout. Hit him with these little pitter-patter punches. And then, at the end of the fight, finally, Dricus takes him down. Khamzat was like, dude, this fight's over. This fight's over. He stopped expending any type of energy. And everybody's like, well, look at the heart of a lion. And look at what he was able to do at the end. He fought to the bitter end. Yeah, okay. Why are we lauding? That's like saying, wow, at least you're a good parent. He should be trying. He's getting paid millions of dollars to fight. Maybe not. But he's getting paid a good amount of money to fight. I don't know. I just thought it was terrible. And I look at the middleweight division like, what's next, right? If I'm Kamaru Usman, I look at how many takedowns I was able to stuff, and I'm getting in the gym, and I'm getting big, and I'm going to try to win that middleweight championship. But I was just pissed watching that fight. It was not good. I was not impressed. Hamzat did what he had to do. Listen, more power to you, bro. You're the champ. You earned it. Nobody deserves shit in this world. You earned it. Boom. Do what you got to do. But Drekis, man, I mean, what do you do? What do you do? Because anybody with any semblance of a ground game is going to take that guy to school. One of the worst performances you're going to see from a UFC champion in history. Not good. Not good at all. All right, let's finish by talking with by talking some soccer here. The Tampa Bay Rowdies, Saturday night, recognized their original era. It was so cool to see some of those guys from 1975 that were there. The original era night. Again, rowdysoccer.com for all the information on there. They fortunately were able to come back and get a point after going down 1-0. The kid that scored the goal, Rizzo, he was an 18-year-old right back, and he scored a goal. It was his first professional goal. I actually talked to him as he came back a couple minutes later, and he was playing with a broken arm. Unbelievable. Rowdies come back down. They get the equalizer on a cross from Joey Skinner. Manu Arteaga comes in, scores a goal. It's getting better when it comes to the Rowdies, but they still have a long way to go. My guy Leo Fernandez came in as a sub. He gave the ball away a couple of times. He's still not 100%. I thought the back three of Castellanos and Forrest Lasso and Aaron Guillen were fantastic. Probably one of the better games they played all year long. And then Lewis Hilton missing him due to injury. That sucked. They got to figure it out. They got to figure it out because they've got 11 games left in the season. They're still sitting at the bottom of the Eastern Conference table. It's got to be better. But from what I've seen from Coach Dominic Castellanos, I like more structure. He seems to understand where he's going. I mean, this new kid that they brought in has been a breath of fresh air. They're bringing a couple of new guys. Just got to keep going, got to keep churning, but you need results. No more draws. You need wins. You need 3 points, and hopefully they can start that again this Saturday night. Also, Premier League started this weekend, which was great to see. Unfortunately, Manchester United lost 1-0 to Arsenal, but I really like what I saw from head coach Ruben Amorim and some of the movements, and Brian Mbeumo and Mateus Cunha. Really like that. But what I didn't really like was they lost 1-0 to Arsenal, and after watching Liverpool and Man City on Friday and Saturday, respectively, they're going to finish 1-2 in the regular season because Liverpool, again, I've said this before, they won the league last year, and then they go out and get Hugo Ekitike up front. They have Florian Wirtz as well, who's going to play in like a number 10 role. Then you're left back with Milos Kirkic and on the right with Jeremy Frimpong. Those guys are definitely going to win the league again. And number 2, I think it's Man City. You get Cherky out there, and Tijani Reinders was the biggest and best newcomer of the entire weekend. You're going to get Rodri back at some point. You have Erling Haaland and John Stones and Ruben Diaz. Like, you have a really good – and the best coach in Pep Guardiola. You look at Arsenal. I don't understand why they play the way they play. It's one thing to be good, right? And listen, I don't dislike the team I dislike the most. I mean, it's probably Arsenal now. But it's not because they're winning. They haven't won jack shit the last couple of years, right? I mean, Man City won the treble. They won all those leagues in a row. And Liverpool won last year. I don't like them at all. I don't like Chelsea. But, I mean, when you look at Arsenal, they play the game like a bottom-of-the-table team. They're always bitching and moaning and crying. And, they're just like they flop on the ground all the time. Like, it's just – and then they hang on for victories, and everybody's like, well, at least they won. Like, no, you got to dominate. If you're a team with any type of skill, if you're a team that's trying to contend for leagues and contend for cups, like, you can't be playing like that against Manchester United. It's crazy to me. They go and they play against Man City, and they're happy because they drew against them. Like, dude, you're trying to beat that team. They always win on these bullshit gray area goals where, their defenders like backing up into the goalie. And they said this year that they were going to look at that and they weren't going to allow them to do it. And then the first goal, that's what they score. Yes, the Man United goalie's got to be stronger. He's got to be able to push the guy to the way. But why is that allowed? How come their defender can pull Mason Mount into him and then him back up and inhibit what the goalie's doing for Man U? And then, oh yeah, here comes their other defender with a goal. Like, it's just so shady. They just do a lot of shady things. They always try to win like in the gray. And then they bitch and they moan and they complain. They bring in this guy, Gyökeres, who was a big-time guy, number 9. I know Man U wanted him. He only wanted to go to Arsenal. He didn't impress me at all. Oh, he's big and he's strong. Yeah, you got to score goals, homie. He got muscled by Matthijs de Ligt all day long. Casemiro even busted him up. Declan Rice was nowhere to be found. Gyökeres was nowhere to be found. Saka was nowhere to be found. I just, the midfield got outplayed by Bruno and Casemiro. It's weird. And then Mikel Arteta runs out to the touchline all the time, like he's involved in the game. Dude, you're the manager. Sit your ass on the side. It's not about you. All you try to do is be like Man City light. You have no original ideas whatsoever. You take everything that Pep taught you and you try to incorporate in this team. That team's not better than Liverpool. That team's not better than Man City. You lost last year with 10 men in the FA Cup to Manchester United. This year, watch the next time they play. We'll see what happens. I'm not impressed with Arsenal at all. Just the way they go about their business. It's always something. It's always bitching and moaning and complaining. Listen, you get beat by a good team, you get beat. Man U's had a real tough time with Liverpool the last couple of years. On the back end, you have Virgil van Dijk, who's one of the best center backs in the history of the Premier League, with Konate and Alisson, who I've always been a big fan of. And then you have Mo Salah, again, one of the great players in the history of the Premier League. They're not bitching and moaning and complaining. If they win, they win. If they lose, they lose. If they give up plays, they give up plays. I got respect for Liverpool when it comes to stuff like that. You don't walk away from them like, man, they play that game like a bunch of bitches. They're bitching and moaning and complaining about calls all the time. Every time with Arsenal, it's like that. Every single time. And again, they can say whatever they want. They get better, fine. But go back and watch the podcast with Stick to Football with Thierry Henry talking about building. They're not building anything. You got Gyökeres. He's not better than Haaland. Just Zubamendi. He didn't wow me. Not a fan at all. Not a fan. I think Arsenal's they're frauds. They are the fraud Giroud of the Premier League. I'm not buying it whatsoever. All right. So a big thank you to our good buddy. Ariel Hawani said something like, for anyone saying Hamzat's style is boring, have you watched his fights? When was the last time he was in a boring fight? He went in there and had the most dominant performance ever from a challenger. Rodriguez gave him no reason to change the game plan. I don't disagree with that. Props to DDP, never quit. Whatever. I mean, again, why we're giving props to people for not quitting. That's your job. You get paid to fight. It's so weird, man. Some of these things that people say. Whatever. All right. Big thank you to my guy, Ian Beckles, for joining us on the program. He's just awesome every Monday at 12:30. You got irons in the fire. We'll see what happens in the next couple of days. Excited to be here with you guys. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I'm everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube. I'll be at USF practice tomorrow. We know we're going to hear from Todd Bowles, so I will have that all for you mañana. We appreciate everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Happy Monday. We'll see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow at noon right here on the Jay Recher Podcast.